to the agenda after it uploads.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I have the same problem, so
No, that's
listening.
perfect.
Not even the same place, but just like both of us.
No, that's perfect. Not that that's perfect, but I mean, that's fine. We'll record. And honestly, the three categories, and then we can certainly talk hybrid as well, because I know things have shifted. But when I was looking at your agenda, and again, Connie and Aaron, this is what I can record and share. I thought three things that could help with hybrid, but also with this year, and Sally, with what you're sharing. There's three things that I wanted to talk about. One is just thinking about the place for oral rehearsal. And we might not be able, and I know you're doing these things, I'm not saying that, but it's just that, and that goes with those cross-pollination teams too, or cross-collaborative teams. But I think especially if we can't see in person, like Sally, matching up some of those kids that we're most worried about, and having them, I don't want them to just hear other kids talking, but I'm going to say, Sally, you go first. Tell your story, tell your information piece to Peggy, and just like have them have a checklist out next to them, and they have to speak in the checklist, like, or speak in the elaboration, or practice the mini lesson. Before they practice it in writing, let's practice it in speaking. And I think sometimes we do that in snippets with like active engagement, but I would say do the heck out of it. Like if there's full days where you're like, we're going to just elaborate today using facts and ideas about our information topics, and just making that up. But you could have a whole day and say, let's just do it in our teams. Get together with your team and write. I like to do write in the air with them. Like pick up your imaginary pencil and like talk to your, say that information page to your partner, or say that introduction to your partner, and write in the air. And it's just, I think that can be helpful if we're feeling like we do a mini lesson and then they're not carrying it through in their writing. So one category was oral rehearsal. And then I'll just say the other two really quick, and then we can talk more about them. Peggy and Sally and Connie and Aaron, you can watch and come back to it when need be. But I thought oral rehearsal, I thought the use of tools, and I refer to those as like silent teachers. And I think there's a lot of, again, I'll unpack it here in a little bit, but I've been having a lot of success with struggling writers or all writers, just getting them to be better at using some tools. And that will actually be really important during hybrid, when you feel like you're spreading yourself thin. The more we can get them to use some tools with independence, the better. So I have some thoughts with that. And then the last category, and I have some examples that I attached to the agenda. There's some under kinder, and I added one under first, is some interactive writing. And I've been doing a lot of that with Jamboards. And it might be as simple as like we write sentences together, or maybe your group writes a sentence or a couple sentences or lines. I did one with some kids the other day, and I put pictures of, they were doing fiction writing, and I put pictures of Elephant and Piggy, and then a picture of a school and a party and a playground. And they had to write Elephant and Piggy, like their own lines for Elephant and Piggy. And it was interactive writing. They were doing it together. Again, in a perfect year, we want them to be more independent than that, right? I'm not saying we don't do interactive writing, but I think just reminding yourself that maybe right now, whether it's for some kids or all kids, if you're finding they're feeling stuck in writing, bringing in more of that interactive writing between now and the end of the year would be good. And I guess the final thing, Connie and Aaron, before you guys have to peace out or whatever, I don't know if it's for me to say, but I'm giving myself permission to say this because I've been working with a lot of the schools in the district, and I feel like I would go to bat for all of you around this. Since kids are coming back in person, or some of them, let's take advantage of the last couple months of the year to just build good routines and good habits, and get them communicating again, and get them to be more independent, and get them, and units aside. So it means, like, I'm saying that because if you have a day where you're like, this unit doesn't lend itself to oral rehearsal, but I have some ideas of how kids could write in the air, go for it. Or I have interactive writing, this doesn't fit. Writing Elephant and Piggy stories doesn't fit with what we're doing right now. Go for it. If it's going to get them producing, if it's going to get them like building their volume and stamina and get them to engage in writing, they need that more for second grade than they do a certain unit of study.
Okay.
And I think,
yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah, you're saying, Megan, just to be more flexible.
Yeah.
We'll
And-
cooperate doing.
Nobody's going to call you out between now and the end of the year for not doing a part of a unit or for not doing a certain, like, you would be hard pressed at this point to find anybody. And I'm sure you've given yourself those liberties this year in different ways, but I just think I would rather my second graders go, or my first graders go to second grade with like the ability to write and to fill a page and to, instead of being able to write about like a letter about a book or being able to, and I'm not saying don't, you know what I mean though, right? So yes, flexibility, Sally. Or maybe you take the first couple weeks of hybrid and make those just a couple weeks of building our writing stamina or get, you know what I mean? Like maybe you give yourself permission for those couple weeks or even 3 weeks back to be like, we're just going to like build learning stamina and volume. And we're going to practice our oral rehearsal. We're going to practice using tools and we're going to practice interactive writing. I'm just giving that as an example, but I just think that would be, kids are going to need it there. I'll tell you this much, like what I've experienced where they have gone back to hybrid, kids are just socially awkward. They always are, but like this year more than ever. And so I'm not saying that to like worry you, but taking those weeks to do some of that will be helpful. That was my like little pep talk for you.
That sounds really good, actually, to just to allow ourselves to do that and not be trying to press forward with the next unit and yeah, it's good.
So is it okay with you guys if I share, and Connie and Aaron, feel free if you guys have to go, but why don't I'm not saying you have to leave, but why don't I just share, if it's helpful, I just thought of like a couple ideas for each of those categories that I could share with you guys. And then we can open up the conversation to anything else that you feel comes to mind, writing related or not writing related when it comes to those categories. Does that sound fair to everybody?
I do have to go. I so appreciate you recording. That's so helpful. Thank you. I'm so sorry. You're so great. I wish I could
It'll be up later. It'll give me, it takes a little bit to upload. So give me it later tonight. I'll attach it.
Okay, or I'll email you say tomorrow?
I'm just going to attach it to the agenda. So on our agenda that for today, where you got to the Zoom call, underneath the Zoom call, I'm actually going to type it in now so I don't forget. Oh, I just deleted it. So maybe I'm not deleted. Here we go. There it is. Underneath Zoom link, I just added session recording.
Okay.
And later tonight after it uploads, I will put the link to the session. I upload them to YouTube, but I make it unlisted so nobody will see it or find it. But you could click on the link and get to it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thanks,
good seeing you.
guys. Thank you. Good to see you. That's okay. That's okay. So let me just show you guys. Is that okay, Sally and Connie, if I just like name out a couple ideas I had for each of these categories, then we can take it from there. Does that work for you?
That works really well. And I really, really do appreciate the practical application and practical, like just how do we do this in this next craziness?
It's been crazy. And I guess the advantage, I've been saying like, it's easier said than done to say the advantages, right? But I think that there's two things that come to mind. One, people have gone before you in this hybrid model, meaning other schools and districts. So let's learn from them. Like if they've already, right? So if there's things that are working, like put it on your plate. And then I think the other thing I've been saying, and again, maybe this is like too raw a topic to bring up, but I'm like, if, you know, on the one hand, it's like, well, why do we have to go back? Because like at this point, we've got routines up, it's the end of the year. But I'm like, if that is the case, first of all, it'll be good to be around kids, but let's take advantage of the end of this year then to just get them talking again, communicating again. Let's practice some of our own methods of how to build, like push through the awkwardness, because in the fall, we're going to have a lot more academic worries to be had. Not that we don't have academic worries right now, but I guess I'm just thinking of like the silver lining is to like spend a couple months of like really building community and again, right? And getting kids, those that are in person, back to some of that. I said to one group, I'm like, it's almost like you want the kids who aren't back in person to be a little jealous of the kids who are in person. Not in a bad way, but like you want them to get there. I was reading an article about trauma-informed teaching, and it was saying like one of the most important things with trauma-informed teaching is to create a sense of hope. And my words to that is like, make it exciting that like we are going to be back in this. Make it exciting that you're not going to have your mom right next to you all the time for learning. Make it exciting that you're going to be with, you know, your friend or with other kids again, because right now it feels like that could actually be really scary for a lot of kids if they've gotten so used to being at home. So like trying to create that buzz, I think is good. Anyhow, I digress. But let me share a couple practical things with each of these, and then we can chat more. So the first one that we were thinking about, I already touched on this, so I'm gonna share my screen just because I'm a jotter while I talk. But the first one I already shared was oral rehearsal, and this is nothing earth-shattering or new, but doing a lot of writing in the air. Doing a lot of like say that intro to your partner, speak to your partner. And with this, it could be in partners or it could be in groups. But if I was going to try and get kids to do more oral rehearsal, and I'm sharing what you guys already know, this is not an earth-shattering, and none of this is earth-shattering. It hopefully is just a reminder. I would try and assign roles. So whether it's an A and B or an A, B, and C, to say like partner A, say your lead first, or partner B, say the question you're going to start with first, or partner C, just so that I think the point, Sally, from what you were saying is like, we have a range of writers right now, and actually the kids who need this most are not your highest group, like it's the other group. And so the other thing I was thinking with this is you could even run some breakout small groups. I wasn't sure how much breakouts you had done, but even if you only put like 3, let's say, I'm just going to give an example. You teach a mini lesson and you get your kids up and writing, but you know there's 3 writers who are like struggling to put anything on the page. You say, hey, I want the 3 of you, even if one's in person and 2 are online, the 3 of you join me in a breakout room and say, hey, instead of writing today, I was thinking that we could write in the air and we could take turns doing, and it could even be as basic as everybody say a sentence and add on to each other. So it could be like, I'm going to start and I'm going to say, I walked in the door after school. Okay, partner B or person B, what could go next? And you say, I went to the playground. I'm like, no. That doesn't follow my story. What comes next? And so then partner B says, I put my backpack on the ground. I'm like, yay, great. Then partner C says, I played. And I'm like, would that be the next thing you do? So it's almost like getting them to make sense of some sort of storyline. You could do it for information too. I'm going to tell a fact. You're going to tell a fact. Just anything you can do to get those students who are struggling to write to talk. I hesitate to show you this next strategy because on the one hand, like it takes more of you as a teacher, but I'm just sharing it in case it is helpful for a small group or a student one-on-one. Well, but don't feel like you have to take it on if it feels like too much. If you are with them in a small group and you're able to do this, although this might even just be a strategy you use for next year, while they're talking, while they're doing the oral rehearsal, there's 2 things you could be doing. One, you can be transcribing their writing and writing the story. It's kind of like interactive writing. That would be one. That's very heavily scaffolded. But number 2 that I like even better is you write down some key words. So you say, I put my backpack on the ground, and I just write, okay, keep going. What else? I had a snack. Oh, okay. My mom said, hi, Meg. I'm not doing this right. It would be better if we had kids live practicing with me. But I don't write down every sentence they say. Do you guys get what I'm doing here? That was a bad example. Sorry. I just write down some key words. So like I'm picturing, I actually am thinking of a first grader I did this with the other day, and he was writing this fall, he was writing about sharks, and we were remote, and it doesn't matter though, it could have been in person. And I was just saying, tell me everything you would put in a book about sharks. And he started just saying things like, they have really big teeth. They're scary. They, like, if they bite somebody, it gets all bloody, and they live in the ocean. And I wasn't writing down every word, but I was writing scary, big teeth, ocean. Whoa, you're saying some fancy words. And as he was saying those words, or after he said those words, I said, Jacob, here's a list of some of your fancy words. Do you think you could write an information piece about sharks right now? And I said, Jacob, you can't just copy the words. You have to like write sentences using these words. It wasn't perfect, but then he can use some of those words. So it's transcribing, but it's not full transcribing of their oral rehearsal.
Megan, the real low kids though, would you recommend transcribing? Because I've got kids who are low.
Yep. I think for them, and I'm going to show you interactive writing in a second. The transcribing, you want to be careful because that might be too heavy for them. Like it might be, I almost feel like you've got to find a happy medium. So if they're low and they're not writing anything yet, maybe just transcribe some of the labels that they're saying, Sally. So maybe show them a picture and say, point to all the different things that you see. And you don't have to label everything for them, but like if there's a couple words that they could do on their own. So maybe if I see a picture and let's say it's like a whale, I'm picturing one I did not too long ago, and there's like a whale jumping out of the ocean and they say like whale, ocean, mountains, jumping. I might write the labels. And then maybe I say to them, are there any labels you can add? And it might be that it might be like, I think kinder. And I say, what else could we label? And maybe they touch or they point on the screen and they say that's water. But they don't know how to spell the word water. I'd be like, what sounds do you hear? And even if they just write a W, I'm like, you've moved them, right? Like, yay, you wrote a W. So I think that's, with the transcribing, Sally, that's a really good question. You always want it to be like, what's one little scaffold that's going to make it still possible for you to do it, not fully on your own. Does that make sense? Because I've done it before where I've written the whole sentences and then you've got, I mean, that's what some of them that might have the parent support are doing. I'm just using that as an example. It's like, sure, you can write a whole sentence if you know, Miss Cars writes it for you, or you can write a whole sentence if your parent writes it for you, but they have so many steps to go before they can write a sentence that it's out of reach. But adding a label or adding a W for for water is within their reach. So it's like, it's the transcribing just something that's like within your reach. If you guys click on, and I'll show you really quick, interrupt me if you're like, Megan, you're moving too fast, but I'm like, I've got stuff I want to share. I did put under the TK, and any of these resources could be helpful. But I'm just thinking of what you're saying about your writers, Sally. And on the one hand, I feel like this might be too low for you. But on the other hand, maybe it's not. I love it. I almost feel like I wish we could, in some happy ways or in small ways, we could give this to parents. It's just a reminder to like see what they are doing. So if you have kids who are like drawing a picture right now, a drawing, and it's like a representational drawing, I say like, what else could you add? What other features could you add? Because then that will help them label. Versus down here, you have labels, and then the way this document works is on the left hand, what you see, on the right hand, what you could try. Make sense? Okay. But the next two things, I think, Sally, could also help with some of those writers and with all of our writers, okay? And maybe you don't have to do all of these with everybody, and I'm probably going to overwhelm you by even sharing them. So you'll take what works for you. But the two other things I wanted to touch on, this one to me has been a really missing piece this year. And I think I get it. A lot of it's because we're not there in person. And like, I can't help what you pull up or what you don't pull up. And they're not sitting in our classrooms anymore and like looking around. They will be, some of them will be. But one thing I might focus on when they come back, and like I'm telling you guys, like if we can do anything, forget the unit, but like teach them some of these skills that are going to help them next year and beyond. really trying to put a focus at this point on the year of the silent teachers. Peggy, I've probably said that if I've worked with you guys before, I say it a lot, but the silent teachers that we've given them that they can be using. Let me give you an example. So it was actually with a group of first grade kids, a lot of ELs, a New York City school, mostly Mandarin speakers. I was with them the other day. The teacher, all the same things you're saying, the teachers are like, they're in a hybrid model already, similar to what you guys will be doing. And the teacher said, Megan, we give them alphabet charts. We give them mini word walls. We've sent these things home, but they're not using them. And at first, I get it. I'm not being I'm not here like the ivory tower, everything's perfect, but they're like, I tell them to use them and they just don't. And I'm like, okay, but could we keep trying? Like, even if it helps just one more student use them more. And we did a lesson and I think it went really well. It worked. And in follow-up, they've still been using it. And I'll just kind of give you guys a model or a demo of what it was. Nothing earth shattering, like I said, but I just said, writers, I brought a picture of a teacher today. And I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. And is it going to be me? Is it going to be your kindergarten teacher? Is it going to be your music teacher? Is it going to be another teacher at Nimitz? I don't know, but I'm going to show you. Are you guys ready to see? And if you've seen this teacher before, you're going to give me a thumbs up. Okay. I'm going to get ready and show it to you. And if you've seen a picture of this teacher before, seen this teacher in person, get ready to give me a thumbs up. And then I went like this and I shared my screen. And they all started laughing and they were like, that's not a teacher. I said, it is. That's the teacher. Haven't you seen her before? And they're all, no. And then I laughed with them and I said, but it is a teacher. And today what I want to teach you is that all these charts I give you, like this one, are charts that can be your teacher. We call them our silent teachers. So first graders, let's look at this right now. And this was so cute, you guys. I was like, what could this teacher help us with? And somebody said like, make an A. Some kid said the ABCs. One kid said apple. I don't even know he saw the apple on here, but like clearly language was an issue and he just said something, but like it got them. And then I said, when could we use it? Somebody said, I could use it in writing. I could use it in reading. I could use it. And it was such a fun brainstorm. Again, you've probably already talked about it and given them these things, but it just was like a nice way to circle back to it and a nice way. And then I said, okay, close your eyes. I brought another one. Then I went off the screen and then I came back and I'm like, I'll show you this in a second. Pretend that's not there. This was just sitting here. And I'm like, what could we use this teacher for? And so then I said, every single day between now and the end of the year, before writing starts or before reading starts, I'm going to ask you, what teacher are you going to use? So it just is like, especially at this point in the year, it feels like you can assume that they've seen these things before. And so to like kind of make it feel like they're growing up and like now you get more teachers than just me. For the hybrid situation, I actually think that this is really important because what's been very hard for myself when I've been teaching is worrying about what's happening with a group of kids when you're helping somebody in person or helping somebody online. And there's still going to be kids just sitting there, but I've been trying to be better at like, use a tool. If I can't be with you, use one of your teachers. I'm sure you guys have already done those things, but it was just, it was fun. It was a reminder of something we could do. It would be a great way to I even think those first weeks back, you could say, this is going to be so strange because we've all been together every day and we're still going to be together. But sometimes Megan is going to be, sometimes, Miss Hargrave is going to be with kids in person, sometimes with kids online. And I'm going to do my best to be both places. But if I'm ever not with you, I want to introduce you to some of our teachers. And some of these people can be your teachers when I'm not there to teach you or whatever. Does that make sense? I've been liking having them on a Jamboard so kids can just click through. It could be Seesaw. I know you've shared things with them on Seesaw and stuff too. I just have been, whatever it is, like trying to make it user friendly enough that they can have it pulled up and in front of them right away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we have been using those charts, but I just love the way it's getting them to think of it, the tools from a different perspective, and it's kind of refreshing the idea of using the tools kind of presented in a different way. So that's really awesome.
Just something different. And another way, I'm a firm believer in tools and their supports for independence. I'm not somebody who like pretends that they're not in first grade and not going to need help and not going to, that's why we have jobs. But I do think like one habit that we can help them build between now and the end of the year that's going to help them tremendously the next year and for years beyond is using tools like that. Of course, I don't have it added to those pages, but you could add a student sample as another tool. Like you could add a piece of demo writing as another option, but I wouldn't overload it either. I'd be like, here's 3, we're good. This is enough. And that could be helpful.
I like the idea of having it in one place also, because otherwise they might have one on the wall and one stuck in a folder somewhere and one.
Yes, and then they don't have it pulled up, and then they don't. I guess the other thing that I'll say to that with hybrid, like I said, I don't want kids to be spending their whole time on the screen if they're in person. That's part of why we're bringing them back. But you're going to make yourself crazy. Maybe you already have, thinking now I have to take everything that was digital and recreate it in person. And there's some things like those charts, you're making double work. I'm not saying don't do those things, but you're making double work for yourself. And honestly, they're going to have to access them online on the days they're not in person anyways. So I would rather it not be, do you know what I mean? Whatever system you're using, unless they've been good at bringing their folders back and forth or whatever, but whatever system you've been using, I would probably, or whatever is a system that they could have across day A, B, and C, D, or whatever it is. I've been finding that's helpful because I think it's been more confusing for kids, especially primary kids, to have like a certain set of things for in person and a certain set of things for at home. I don't know. That's just a thought. But okay, the last thing, and it has to do with this, but the last thing, is this okay, you guys, if I share one more thing? Have I lost you? We're good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay. The last thing that has been really helping, I shouldn't even just say struggling writers, but like early writers, given a pandemic, and honestly, I would say these things are probably things we need to do more of any year. I've been doing a ton of interactive writing, or sometimes I'll call it bookmaking, with kids. And this could be in small groups. It could be in whole groups. It's very similar to what I was saying for the oral rehearsal, but let me just show you. It could be as simple as writing what they're saying here. These are not like fancy words of defining things, but I just want to show you, actually, it looks done because it is done. It's what I used in a lab site recently, and I thought that was better than making something fresh. I'm like, I'll just show you what we used. I was in a lab site, hang on a second, remote lab site with a group of kids, and I'm just gonna share this exam. Oh, hang on. I'll just share this one. It's a kinder one, but you guys will get the idea. We were working on, and it's posted under the kinder agenda item. This particular group of teachers was focused on word recall and sight words, but you could do this for anything. And I know you guys already know how to do this. So it's not, this is not something brand new, but you'll see how all the pieces come together. What we looked at was, what we did was the teachers had told me some of the sight words that kids were really focused on. Okay. And we put those on the side. And then I said, do you think we could like write this book together? What would we say? What words would we use? And some of them, I had them write them down. Some kids, I said, if you want to write it on your own page or your whiteboard, write it right now and then hold it up to the screen. And then some, I said, you just share it out. Some were like crickets. And I said, what if we started with look? What would come next? And then they helped me create this book, if you will. It's interactive writing, but on the screen. And we started to create this book together using some of their sight words. But I was wondering, for like your first graders, it could be more sophisticated or maybe not, depending on who they are. Sally's like, no, this looks good. But they had so much fun with it. They were super engaged. We tried to like this one, we're like, we could do 2. This isn't the best example of it. I can attach another one, but it'll give you guys the idea of what you could do. I would do it based on like what your kids like and what they want to talk about. Like, I did a picture of their school, of their playground, of their teachers. So like they could also look at some of those things and say like, you know, I see Miss Hargrave, I see PS 176. Look at the kids playing. And then other kids were saying some more sophisticated things. Here's a second version that I did of this. Again, you guys will get the idea. I don't want to lose you by any means, but this was one we did with a first grade. It was a high first grade. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But then I'm going to show you what it could look like for lower. You'll see it was, okay, so I said, let's look at some old friends. We read the words together. And I said, let's look at some new friends. We read the words together, okay? And then I said, now we've got old and new friends. Pretend this wasn't here. I'm going to delete it real quick. So I put them together. And then I had them think of their read aloud. Again, they were older kids, but just stick with me for a second. And I said, could we use these words to write as if we're Cam Jansen and her friend? Because that was the book they were reading. And the kids came up with this. Like one kid said, Cam said, how do we get the UFO? And again, this was a gifted and talented group, but I made them say like, which old friends did you use? And then we'd click on it and we said, okay, which new friends? So they were like doing some of this interactive writing. You don't have to, we were doing it again for the purpose of word recall, but they had a blast with it. You could do the same thing though with elephant and piggy or frog and toad and just say like, and you could use the sight words or you don't have to. Now, here's bringing the pieces together if I haven't lost you yet. Okay, this is as simple as just like, what would elephant and piggy say at the party? What would elephant and piggy say at the playground? But then this is the game changer. This was like, it came out of nowhere, you guys. It wasn't even planned. And the teachers were like, let's try it. We did. And it was like, drop the mic. That gives myself too much credit because it wasn't me. It was the teachers and I together. We went back to a teacher. This is on the same day where we talked about the teachers. And I said, writers, what if we were to do the same thing? What if we were to like write up like as if we're Cam and Eric from the book you're reading using this silent teacher? Do you think we could do it? Who can give me the first line using this teacher? Who can give me the second line? And then we wrote together using some of the words from their teacher. Does that make sense? So you could do the same thing with elephant and piggy, and it could be as simple. You don't have to even use this word wall if that's too much. You could say, let's use this to write, who can say something the elephant would say using this chart? And then they might say like, hi, Piggy. And I'd say, well, what would you use from this chart to write that? Maybe they say the H, or maybe they say there's a P, there's a pig, we use the P. So you guys get the point. It's just, I think that interactive writing and that bookmaking, it's not doing it for them, but it's just like bringing joy to all of these things and getting them to use their voices more. And I imagine that maybe a big part in why some of our writers are struggling more than they normally would is also because of their lack of oral language and their lack of not just input, but also output this year. And especially if language is the thing at home, but if they're not hearing other kids talking as much as they used to. They're on Zoom and they're Google Meets. They're hearing each other, but not in the same way that they used to.
Not as much. Yeah.
They're not hearing the social talk of lunch. They're not hearing the walking down the hallway. They're not hearing like a lot of what they're hearing is a teacher asking a question and them responding, or them talking about a character, or them answering a math question or whatever. And they're getting less of that. They still get the morning meeting and all that, but less of that like chatter that I think happens so much. So that was a bit of a ramble, but I don't know. Hopefully any of those 3 categories, the oral rehearsal, the tools, the interactive writing, I think it could bring some like fun and some joy, continue to bring some fun and some joy to writing, but also I think it'll help you feel maybe a little bit more like refreshed than feeling so focused on a unit. And again, I'm not saying now come up with your own curriculum and use whatever, but not that you couldn't, but like use the units if it's helpful, but also know that like, I guess when I think about second grade writers, They're still in booklets. They're still using those tools because they're in the phonics unit, so they'll look the same. But they are using booklets that have more lines and less pictures. They are using booklets that have more pages. So they don't necessarily need, I keep saying it, they don't need the units as much as they need the skills to use those things that they'll continue to use next year.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole writing process versus just writing specifically fictional stories, although that might be really, really fun, right? And motivate them. But they need that volume building and stamina more so.
One other thing that could help, I just had this thought. Like, I think part of it might be that they don't have a lot to write about. And like, certainly this year has given us all not much to write about. We're like, life has been kind of the same. It's been like a, you know what I mean? Groundhog Day every day. But one strategy that I like that can help them generate ideas can be, I call it a list of everys. And so you have them think about things. This just came to mind, but you have them think about things. You could say, first graders, we're going to have some time to just write and use our tools, use our silent teachers to help us write. I'm just making that up. You'll launch it however you want. But I say things to them, or I say to them, and you know, sometimes it's hard for me to come up with ideas. I have a hard time coming up with ideas. But somebody said to me once, Megan, just use the things you do over and over again in your life. And so I thought about it and I thought, well, what if I were to make a list of everys? And what if I were to think about things that I do every day or every weekend or every birthday or every summer? Well, now, first graders, I might not do it every summer or every birthday, but like most. So I know, like every summer, I ride my bike. I love my bike and I get out there when it's warm and it's sunny. Maybe you do that every day. Another thing I do every summer, I go with my family to the lake. Maybe you go to a special place. Some of you might have like a certain camp, or you go to like summer school, or you play with a certain babysitter. You might have that here. Maybe every birthday, like my mom makes that special chocolate cake that I eat. You guys get what I'm doing, right? And you know your kids, so you can do some of this with them. But sorry, my chicken scratch is not great, but it just gets them to see that they do like them. Even if they say, I eat breakfast, even if they say, I talk to my brother, like even if they say, I make my bed, or I don't make my bed, or I do my chores, or I don't do my chores, they could tell a story about that. They could write an information piece about that. They could give an opinion about it. So it just helps them see that even the most mundane, basic things can become something that they write about. Were you going to say something, Sally? Yeah. Or you're muted. Are you muted? No, sorry.
The same, you know, I as you were talking, I was thinking, well, every morning or every afternoon or every lunchtime, just what you were saying.
I eat peanut butter and jelly. I eat macaroni. I eat whatever that, like, I know some of them have more limited experiences than others, but it can be, I wake up, like it can be, I get on Google Meets. It can be, you know, like there's more now that they could write about. My family goes for a walk. You know, whatever it is, could be good. Just a little extra tip, because I do think them generating ideas has been another predictable struggle, just because of the lack of experiences, if you will.
I think first graders have a hard time anyway, or some do, generating ideas anyway, even if it's not our current situation.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, it's sort of guiding them to see that there's stuff in their own small experience that they can write about. And it's sort of like opening their eyes to that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like even your school day, I'm looking at your calendar behind you. We do calendar. We read a book. We eat lunch. We sing a song. We, do our math, whatever. Like there's always going to be little things that are good for them. We read, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I hope this gave you guys some ideas. Did it give you?
Yeah, really good.
Okay, just a handful.
No, good. Really
Okay.
a lot. Really a lot. Yeah, and I liked how you're saying, you know, you can be flexible and do what you need to do to get them as ready as you possibly can for second grade
Yes.
in terms of their, you know, writing skills or writing output, however you want to put it. And I think that's really crucial for us to do that.
Yeah.
And being rather than like confined to a unit.
Yep. The academics are already like the gaps are there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we don't want to try, but like it's better to like build the stamina and the learning again so that like the gaps can be closed next year.
Exactly.
And I even think like looking at these few months and even like as best we can say to them, like you could keep writing stories this summer or you could use this like starting now to kind of like put that, like create those habits that they could continue. Not all of them will, like, let's be clear, but I just feel like trying that now to me is so much more important than our next units. Not that units aren't important, but
Right.
Yeah, and I think those few things for hybrid have been two of my game changers, like partnering kids together and then having their device near them, but teaching them not to be on it. Don't stare at your computer. But it has been really helpful just because it's allowed for like your community to continue. You know, somebody said to me yesterday, she's like, well, I only have 2 kids who are going to be in person. And I'm like, it's going to be real socially awkward unless they partner with the kids who are online. You know what I mean? Like you want them to maintain that as well. So anyhow.
These are all really good points. Thank you, Megan. Just lots to think about and consider. And
it's a lot. I know it's a lot to shove in an hour, but I think it's good. We recorded this. You guys, like, even if it's one thing you walk away with that you're like, this is good, there you have it. And you can reach out to me anytime. Celestina has my info. I think she passed it on to you. I'll put it on that. I'll even put it on the agenda so you guys have it, and reach out if I can help with anything. I'm happy to. And anything you're doing, anything you do every day is good enough. If you need me, I don't know that you need me to remind you of that, but remind yourselves of that because it's a crazy time. So
thank you, Megan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It was good to see you, albeit briefly and remotely. I will upload the link there, and if there's other things I can share, just let me know. Okay.
Will that all be on our Google Drive? Is that how you're uploading it?
So I'm just going to upload it on, I upload it, Sally, to YouTube, but I make it unlisted so you won't be able to see it. And then I'll link it to the agenda. So if you go to the agenda that gave you the Zoom link for today, here, I'll show you real quick.
Yeah, where is that?
I'm just going to put, so whatever you went to today to get to the agenda, does this look familiar?
No.
No? Does this look familiar to you, Peggy?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Sally, I can share that with you.
Oh, okay.
Do you mind, Peggy, sharing it with
Not
her?
at all.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all.
Perfect. And so, Sally, what I'm going to do is just underneath here where it says session recording, after this uploads, I'll attach it right there, and then you guys will have that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And there's other things linked here, so use anything that's helpful. There's, under any of the other grade levels. And if there's anything else you're looking for, don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care of yourselves. Good to see you. Bye, guys.
Bye.